Russia has used various forms of military, political, and economic pressure to undermine Ukraine's sovereignty and independence since the 2014 revolution that ousted pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych. Some of the methods Russia has employed are invading and annexing Crimea, a strategic peninsula in the Black Sea that was part of Ukraine, in March 2014. Russia claimed that it was protecting the rights of ethnic Russians in Crimea, but the international community condemned the move as a violation of Ukraine's territorial integrity and imposed sanctions on Russia. Supporting and arming separatist rebels in eastern Ukraine, who declared two self-proclaimed republics in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The conflict has killed over 14,000 people and displaced millions since 2014. Russia denies direct involvement in the war, but evidence shows that it has provided weapons, troops, and funding to the rebels. Launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in July 2023 after a failed attempt to assassinate Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Russia claimed that it was responding to a Ukrainian provocation near the border, but Western countries accused Russia of escalating the conflict and violating the 2015 Minsk agreements that aimed to end the war peacefully. Imposing a naval blockade on 3 Ukrainian ports in the Sea of Azov, which connects to the Black Sea through the Kerch Strait. Russia controls both sides of the strait after annexing Crimea, and has restricted the passage of Ukrainian and foreign ships since 2018. The blockade has severely affected Ukraine's economy, especially its steel and agricultural exports. Using energy as a weapon to pressure Ukraine and its European allies. Russia is the main supplier of natural gas to Europe, and most of it transits through Ukraine. Russia has repeatedly threatened to cut off gas supplies to Ukraine or increase prices, especially during winter months when demand is high. Russia has also built alternative pipelines, such as Nord Stream 2, that bypass Ukraine and reduce its leverage as a transit country. Conducting cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns against Ukraine and its supporters. Russia has targeted Ukrainian government institutions, critical infrastructure, media outlets, and civil society organizations with malicious software and hacking attempts. Russia has also spread false or misleading information about the conflict and its causes, portraying Ukraine as a fascist state and a puppet of the West. Ukraine's secular democracy faced challenges from internal corruption, social divisions, and external interference. In this section, we will explore how these factors undermined Ukraine's democratic aspirations and made it vulnerable to Russian aggression. Ukraine gained its independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, but it struggled to establish a stable and effective political system. The country was plagued by corruption, oligarchic influence, weak institutions, and polarized society. According to Freedom House, Ukraine's democracy score declined from 4.21 in 2005 to 4.64 in 2013 on a scale of 1 to 7, with 7 being the worst. Corruption was one of the most pervasive and persistent problems in Ukraine. It eroded public trust in the government, hindered economic development, and facilitated the capture of state resources by powerful elites. Transparency International ranked Ukraine 144th out of 177 countries in its 2013 Corruption Perceptions Index. The lack of accountability and transparency in the public sector created opportunities for abuse of power and misuse of funds. Social divisions were another challenge for Ukraine's secular democracy. The country was divided along linguistic, ethnic, regional, and religious lines. The majority of the population spoke Ukrainian as their native language, but a significant minority spoke Russian, especially in the eastern and southern regions. The ethnic composition of Ukraine was also diverse, with Ukrainians making up about 78% of the population, Russians 17%, and other groups such as Crimean Tatars, Belarusians, Moldovans, Bulgarians, Hungarians, Romanians, Poles, and Jews accounting for the rest. The regional differences were reflected in the political preferences of the voters, who tended to support parties that aligned with their cultural and economic interests. The religious landscape of Ukraine was also complex, with various Orthodox churches, Greek Catholics, Roman Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, Jews, and others coexisting in the country. External interference was another factor that threatened Ukraine's secular democracy. Russia viewed Ukraine as a vital strategic interest and a buffer zone against NATO expansion. Russia also feared that a successful democratic transition in Ukraine would inspire similar movements in other former Soviet republics and challenge its own authoritarian regime. Russia used various means to undermine Ukraine's sovereignty and independence, such as economic pressure, energy dependence, propaganda, cyber attacks, covert operations, and military intervention. In 2013 to 2014, Ukraine faced a pivotal moment in its history. A popular uprising known as the Euromaidan Revolution ousted the pro-Russian president Viktor Yanukovych after he refused to sign an association agreement with the European Union. The revolution was driven by the desire of millions of Ukrainians to integrate with Europe and embrace democratic values. However, Russia responded by annexing Crimea and supporting separatist rebels in eastern Ukraine, sparking a bloody conflict that continues to this day. Ukraine's secular democracy is still under attack from internal and external forces that seek to undermine its progress and stability. The country needs to overcome its challenges and consolidate its reforms to secure its future as a free and prosperous nation.